hello everyone. My name is Omar, your host for this show, Secrets of Greatness. Thank you so much for joining us for yet another exciting episode. First things first, if you haven't already done so, please do click the subscribe button right below. And if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to click the thumbs up button. It really helps us generate more and more content. And also, do write to us in the comment section below your key takeaways. Perfect. Now that housekeeping stuff is out of the way, I am so excited to introduce to you our very special guest for today's episode. I have a very talented and experienced professional who studied engineering and then spent over a decade in the manufacturing industry, working for big firms like Conagra Foods, General Mills, and Apotex. And afterwards, she changed gears and became an advocate for diversity and inclusion in the field of engineering. She is currently the CEO of Engineers of Tomorrow, an organization that is on a mission to empower STEM professionals to deliver world class engineering outreach programs. Please join me in welcoming the very amazing Rebecca White. Hey, Rebecca.
Hi, thank you so much.
No, thank you for being on the show. I am so excited for you to be here, and I can't imagine how much, you know, how much insights and great knowledge that you're going to be sharing with everybody, not just with me, with everybody watching this particular. So excited for this.
I think it's going to be fun.
Rebecca, in your field of work at Engineers of Tomorrow, you get to work a lot with children from school, like middle school, high school, and even universities and so on and so forth, right? And even young professionals. What would you say, like, what is that one thing that is super critical for these young ones to develop at an early stage, or rather something sooner rather than later? And you spoke about, when you and I we were talking about it, you had told me that that is growth mindset. You're always looking at that. So first off, can you help us explain what exactly is a growth mindset?
Yeah, growth mindset is integrated into all the work that we do. It's so important. So you're
Hmm.
right. It's one of, if you have to pick one thing, that's definitely where I would start. And in terms of defining growth mindset, I
Yeah.
think the best way to do it is to look to the expert, and that would be Carol Dweck. So she wrote the book
Yep.
literally on growth mindset. And so she says that in a growth mindset, people believe that their most basic abilities can be developed through dedication and hard work.
Right.
So brains and talent are just the starting point.
Mm,
So I think that it's just a great way to think about it, right? It's like a muscle that we can develop. It's not that we are brought into this world and we're stuck with what we have. We can grow and we can develop that even further.
right. Absolutely. And I think that is so important. That is a myth that I think it's so important to debunk that myth about being gifted, about natural talent, about
Yes.
intelligence. Because I have found in my line of work as well, whenever I have worked with young professionals and youth, their mindset is kind of like stuck at like, hey, I'm not naturally good at this or that. I'm not naturally good at math, or I'm not naturally
Mhm.
good at soccer, so I'm not gonna ever try it, right? And that really breaks my heart. So I'm so glad, you the young audience listening to this particular episode, they can also hear directly from somebody so experienced like Rebecca saying that, you know what, it is not about what you're born with. You can develop those skills. You can develop that talent through sheer hard work, right? And thank you so much
Mhm.
for bringing that up. So, in that case, that naturally leads me to the question: okay, if you are telling us, Rebecca, that it is you can develop a talent, any skill, you can develop it. You can grow your intelligence
Mhm.
and build a growth mindset. So, how do we do that? What are some um, actionable actions or tips that
Mhm.
you can provide to us so that people can get on that journey to developing a growth mindset and increasing their skills levels?
Yeah. I mean, it's something we see a lot in the engineering community. There is
Hmm.
a real tendency to talk about engineers are good at math and science.
Yes.
But the thing is, math and science are just tools that engineers use, and you can develop those tools with a growth mindset through hard work and dedication. You can learn. So
Hmm.
to develop that growth mindset, depending on your age, so I know you have a range of folks that are watching
Yes.
here with us today, but one great place to start is to definitely check out Carol Dweck's book on mindset.
Absolutely.
There's just so much in there that goes way beyond what we could talk about in the limited time we have here today. And read it and reread it, and tag mark down pages and highlight it, and there's just tons in there. So I would say that that's a great place
Yeah.
to start. And for parents too, if there's younger children, parents can check out the book, and then that way they can support their children through that journey
Right.
as well. But another great real action that anyone can take, no matter your
Hmm.
age, is to start journaling.
Mm.
So, and there's different ways that you can do that. But why that's so powerful is that it's a way for us to build that muscle, that growth
Yeah.
mindset muscle. And through journaling, it's an opportunity to reflect on um, where you might be stuck in certain places, and where you're seeing maybe some growth or noticing things in a new way. I find just noticing really
Yeah.
powerful. Like, oh, hey, I had this thought. That's interesting. That doesn't seem like it was
Yeah.
a very growth mindset type of thought. Um, so you can kind of just, free journal in that way. But a really awesome tool, if you're looking for something more structured, a
Hmm.
great way to start then is with a product that I am in no way affiliated with, but I just think is a great product, called the Big Life Journal. They
The
have some
Big Life Journal. Okay.
excellent resources online that are specifically designed and structured to practice building that growth mindset muscle. And
Oh,
it's targeted at very specific ages too, so you can pick the journal for a younger age or middle school age or whatever it is. And I think they've
got
got
it.
some free stuff online. It's a
Yeah.
great place to start.
No, that's amazing. Those are some amazing tips, Rebecca. Absolutely. I think 110%. I agree with the first thing you said. Read that book. Yesterday I was doing another recording with another gentleman, and he spoke about the fact that how important it is to read books. And I think if there is one book, especially on this topic of growth mindset, that you guys want to read it from the expert, Dr. Carol Dweck. Read that book. It has changed my life. And I really hope it changes a lot of your lives as well, who are people who are listening to it. And the second thing you spoke about, which is a very, very popular opinion of a lot of the guests who are coming on this particular show, is the journaling aspect. And I'm so glad it just keeps getting reiterated over and over again. So it kind of, to me, it shows how important journaling is, and in fact how neglected sometimes it is. I have neglected journaling for a very long period of time in my particular life, right? I'll be very honest about that. And I think when I started doing that, as you said, I started seeing those, noticing those little changes and patterns. And the thing you spoke about, the Big Life Journal, absolutely. I think I'm definitely going to check that out. I hadn't heard of it, so thank you for giving us that great tip. Hopefully people listening to it are able to find it on Google, order it off Amazon, wherever it is, and start journaling if they need something that's structured. Thank you so much, Rebecca, for sharing that. Um, Rebecca, then now we spoke about what is growth mindset. We spoke about how to what's some actionable tips you can provide to us to get on that path. Other than growth mindset, right? Like other than growth mindset, what other tools should we acquire in our toolkits if we are to be successful and become the greats in different facets of our life, not just in our
Mhm.
professional lives, but also in our personal lives. Like what is that? What are the other tools that you would suggest or skills?
Yeah, and just by the way, I love the analogy you're using of tools in a toolbox. As someone who studied engineering, I really appreciate that. I think we like to think about those. We like to use that analogy, right? We really
Aligned.
connect to it with our
Yes,
engineering identity.
absolutely. That's our engineering identity, like
Yeah.
right here.
So when I think about other tools, and to be honest, tools that are really
Yeah.
complementary with growth mindset that we were just talking about, really what comes to mind for me is resiliency.
Mm-hmm.
So with growth mindset, you start to realize that you can do hard things.
Mm.
And so with doing hard things comes problems.
Yeah.
And so you need that ability to be resilient.
Wow. Okay. So what you're saying is like, okay, you just don't need you growth mindset on its own is not the only tool that you will need. The other complementary tool that can
Mhm.
be easily coupled with the growth mindset is the tool or the skill of being resilient, correct? That's how I
Yeah,
would,
you
yeah.
can think of
And
it as a way to like level up, or, when you combine these things together, you get an exponential impact.
right. So, Rebecca, a lot of us have heard of the fact that, hey, you got to be resilient,
Mhm.
but what does resiliency even mean? Let's just start off with like, what does it mean to you, right? Everyone has a little bit of it. Like, there's one generic Oxford Dictionary definition, but there's always like something personal to each definition that everybody can
Yeah.
add, right? So, what is your personal definition of resiliency?
So for me, I think it means you can recover quickly from
Mm-hmm.
difficult or tough or challenging complex problems.
Right.
And if you can master that, then I have no doubt you will be successful in all aspects of your life.
Right. And in resiliency, right? Like they have you may have seen that across your professional career, or even in your personal life, you may have seen the difference in the fact that how with the trajectory that people who are resilient they take and the trajectory that people who are not so resilient they take, right? So how do you assess whether a person or a student or a colleague is resilient or not? Like, what are those indicate? How do you figure that out?
Yeah, so sort of from someone that's on the outside looking in, I think that if I'm watching someone try and struggle through a
Yeah,
problem, for example,
yeah.
you can really see the where those two paths kind of diverge. So
Mm-hmm.
there's the more resilient mindset that will see that problem and then go through different strategies in
Mm-hmm.
order to work through it. And then there's the other path where you take sort of a more like you'll shut down.
Yeah.
So it's a good analogy might be like as problems come up, you can decide if you are going to be the one who's sort of that perpetual victim of
Mm-hmm.
all these things that are happening to you,
Yeah.
or you can just get busy figuring them out and take
Mm-hmm.
responsibility and move forward. I think that's really helpful in looking at how someone is resilient.
Right. And I think you touched on a very interesting thing that I'm going to pick on and just add on to it, if you don't mind. You
Mhm.
use the word, you know, you can either do this or that. So that tells me you can either, you said, you can either like choose to go down the destructive path and be like, and shut down, or you can choose to like push forward and keep pushing the envelope forward. So what that shows me is that as human beings, when life presents us with these situations, we actually have a choice, right?
Always.
Realizing that you actually have a choice to make. And I think the way I understand it is that growth mindset then comes in. That's where the growth mindset comes into play,
Mhm.
right? If you have, if you are able to develop that growth mindset, you are then more likely to choose this path, which is I'm going to push the envelope forward,
Mhm.
right? And I think that's where, if I'm not wrong, that's where the connection is between resilience and growth mindset.
Yeah, it's that belief in yourself,
Yeah,
right? So if you don't have that,
absolutely.
it's going to be harder to be resilient.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, I love
Yeah.
how you have just broken it down and made it so simple for us to understand. So thank you for that. Um, so in order to be resilient, right? Like we spoke about some actionable tips for developing a growth mindset. What are some actionable tips to build and bulk up our resilience muscle?
Yeah, I mean, there's some obvious things I think that you can do, and uh, again, starting with that growth mindset and working on that, definitely good place to start because it's
Hmm.
going to make being resilient easier.
Yeah.
But I think that if you're looking for a specific action that you can take to build that resilience muscle, a good question to ask yourself to practice that is, it's really simple. It's like one word. The question is why.
Yeah.
So we connecting to that
Mm.
why, that bigger sense of purpose and meaning behind whatever it is you're struggling with
Hmm.
is really it's a good practice, and and it's really powerful in um, helping you get through whatever it is you're trying to get through. If there's one certainty in life, it's
Yeah.
that we will always have problems, and
Absolutely.
coming up with solutions and solving problems is actually what makes us happy. So it's a good thing that we have problems, and the funny thing is that those solutions then become the next problems we have to solve. So you might as well get comfortable with having welcoming problems into your life, and then use that as an opportunity to practice being resilient and ask yourself why. So you're probably at home struggling through some math problems that your
Of course.
teacher has now assigned
Yeah.
to you, and you're thinking like, this is terrible. I don't want to be doing this. I don't know how to
Boo.
do this. Boo.
And
Yeah.
math.
But start to think about why. Why is it worth it
Mm.
to put yourself through that pain of learning? Because let's be honest, it's not easy to learn new things.
Absolutely.
And if you can connect to that bigger sense of purpose and meaning. So, for example, maybe there's a problem you see in the world that you want to solve, or maybe maybe it's that you want to buy some new toy, or like an Xbox or something. And so guess what, having math as a tool in your toolbox is going to help
Yeah.
you calculate and convince your parents why you can afford it now. So if you can connect to that why, it really helps drive you through those problems.
And that's beautiful. I love how you made that connection between resilience and that power to connect to your larger sense of purpose and your larger why. Because, yes, absolutely. I think whenever we face some sort of problems, adversity, we feel down. And the one reason that can always motivate us is that having that alignment or that connection with the higher sense of our own purpose in life, right?
Yeah.
And if you are able to figure that out, you
Yeah.
are a lot more probable, you're a lot more likelier to get back up and
Hmm.
show resilience when you're faced with a roadblock, right?
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be something big and
Mm.
a far off goal. Like, it doesn't have to be, I want to save the world, or it doesn't have to be, I want to
I'm glad you
affect
said that.
climate change. It can be, that I want to get my mom off my back because she's bugging me every day about cleaning my room. So it can be something really simple and something that just affects your world every day. So I just want to make sure that, because sometimes when we talk about a bigger sense of meaning and purpose, it sounds like this grand idea,
Yes,
but
absolutely.
it really can just be your motivation. That's really all we're
Right.
trying to say.
Like, yeah, find your motivation. Like, how can that math problem actually help you, right? Like, how
Mm-hmm.
can that, yeah. And I think I'm so glad you mentioned it, that your why, your bigger sense of purpose does not have to be grand, right? I think sometimes we put a lot of pressure
Mm-hmm.
on the students, especially the young ones, um, and when they're just in that discovery phase, and they're like, "Oh my God, do I really need to go out there and save the world and change and save the planet? Like, I don't know how to do this. This is high
Yeah.
expectations." And I see that as a notion of like everybody is kind of like going in that path, and for a lot
Mm-hmm.
of the students, it's creating a lot of anxiety and stress. And they're like, oh, there's that fear of missing out. I should be on that path, but I'm not. Oh my God. So I'm
Yeah.
so glad you brought up and you kind of like normalized the expectations by
Mm-hmm.
saying that, yeah, that sense of purpose, it doesn't have to be, solve climate change or save the planet. It can be as simple as, you know, something personal to you, like something about, I want to get my mom off my back or something, right? Like, or I just want to be able to be more independent later on, financially independent. And
Yes.
in order to be financially independent, which I think is very common, nobody wants to be financially dependent on their parents or anybody else for the rest of their lives, right? So if you want to be, yes, that is a huge motivation, a reason why you should learn math, for example, right?
Yeah, and I think that our brains, we give
Hmm.
them a lot more credit than they maybe deserve. They're always looking for examples they want to prove themselves right.
Huh.
So
Okay.
I find a really good practice, or maybe a little trick, is to give your brain its own identity. So I'll call mine Bob, my big old brain, and sometimes Bob will like tell me how I did something wrong, or how I didn't align with those expectations that you were talking about. And I personally find it a really powerful way to separate myself from Bob and think and notice, and this is where
Hmm.
journaling can really help too, notice what Bob is trying to tell me and
Huh.
just reflect on that and think, well, is that really real? Is that true? Or is there another way to look at this? And so it just helps open that conversation within yourself.
Wow. I mean, it's a very interesting thing you say, because you are now giving your own brain a very different identity than your own self. And
Oh, yeah.
so Bob versus Rebecca, and you're always having this battle like, Bob, are you telling me the right thing? Are you pushing me in the wrong direction? So that's interesting. And I think
Yeah.
that's a brilliant trick to have in your toolkit. Again, just if you are able to, I guess, give your brain an identity, that negative, but you can even call it the negative Nancy, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
right? And identify, like, when your brain is trying to trick you by saying, aha, I told you you cannot do it, right? Things
It
like that.
likes to be right. It likes to
The
find,
life.
Bob always likes to be right. So so if you can set up your expectations in a way and practice that growth mindset and resiliency, and then you can start to show Bob or
Mm,
negative Nancy examples of how doing things in a different way are working out for you.
yeah, that's amazing. I think that's definitely a very hopefully that tip actually it sticks with the younger audiences, for sure. I think so. It will.
Try it
So
out. Give
try
it
it
a
out.
try.
Exactly. Give it a try. Give it a try. That's amazing. That's great. I mean, this is amazing. Rebecca, your organization. Let's talk a little bit about your organization, Engineers of Tomorrow. you guys are currently, if I'm not mistaken, um, you guys are currently recruiting for volunteers for your engineering in residence program, EIR program. Just take a few moments and tell us a little bit more about this fantastic initiative. Who knows, right? Who knows?
Yeah, no.
A handful number of engineers could be listening to this particular episode who may reach out and volunteer. So tell us a little bit
Yeah.
more.
Or the ones listening might become the
Yes,
engineers of tomorrow too.
exactly. A lot of
No,
younger
thank
audience
you.
here.
Yeah, thanks so much, Omer. So what we do with Engineers of Tomorrow and the Engineer in Residence program that we run is we match local engineering volunteers with classrooms, kindergarten through grade 12.
Yeah.
And so those volunteer engineers or EIRs, as we like to call them,
Hmm.
they go in and they visit their class regularly throughout the school year, and they have some fun with them. They
Mm.
do hands-on STEM activities, that's science, technology,
Yeah.
engineering, and math, and just talk to them about what they do. They're real
Mm.
people, just like you and I are having a
Yeah.
conversation. And so hopefully some of these students can then potentially see themselves in these volunteer engineers, or just get maybe a different understanding about engineering and what it means and what's possible.
Right.
So you're right, we are currently recruiting for volunteer engineers in Ontario
Hmm.
for our program that will kick off in September when school hopefully gets back
Hopefully. Hopefully.
to some new normal. So if you are an engineer in Ontario,
Yeah.
please consider volunteering. And if you're a teacher in Ontario, we might have some teachers that are watching. Please also check out our website, because you can easily sign up to request to have a volunteer engineer come into your class
Right.
and create those positive engineering experiences.
Amazing. This is such a great initiative. I love it. I absolutely love it. I wish I had this kind of a program when I was in my middle school or high school, just so that I can get a better understanding of what engineering is all about, right? So
We
I'm
hear it
glad
a
you guys
lot.
are
We hear that a lot. Yeah.
I'm so glad you guys are doing it, and especially for the newer generation, you guys have so much more access to information and such amazing programs. So kudos to you, Rebecca. Really, hats off. Amazing job done. And thank you from the bottom of my heart for your time. I know you're a very busy person, and I really appreciate your time. You have provided us with such amazing knowledge, insights on two topics that are so important: growth mindset and resilience, right? I learned a lot. I certainly did. And I really hope that you guys watching this show, you guys learned a lot as well. So, Rebecca, this has been awesome. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity, Omar. I think it's amazing what you're doing.
No, thank you. The pleasure is all mine. And for those of you watching, please do not forget to click the subscribe button below, thumbs up button if you like this episode, and share your comments and insights with us in the comment section. Thank you. This is your host, Omer, signing off for this week. Thank you once again, Rebecca. Chat soon.
Thanks.